I want her removed from the premises immediately.
Sir, you need to calm down and let us handle this.
You people always think you can just take whatever you want. The security guard's spit flew as he cornered Maya Henderson against the thrift store wall. Her receipt timestamp 3:15 p.m. 15 minutes ago crumbled in her trembling hand.
I haven't done anything wrong.
3 cops surrounded her now. So handcuffs out, cameras rolling everywhere. The blood from her wrists would stain her sister's birthday gift. But these racist cops had just made the biggest mistake of their pathetic careers. They'd arrested the wrong black woman. Dead wrong. Friends, before we expose this shocking corruption, hit subscribe and watch till the end. Comment your city below. Let's see how far justice travels today. Maya Henderson's hands shook as she poured her morning coffee. Not from fear, from rage. 67 false arrests. 67 black and brown faces in her files, each with the same story: arrested at Treasures and Tales thrift store, charges dropped, insurance claims paid. 3 months undercover, and she still didn't have enough to nail these bastards. Her sister Patricia's call came at 9:03 a.m. Maya almost didn't answer. She was deep in surveillance footage from last week's arrest of Thomasina Williams, age 74, accused of stealing a $2 cookbook. Maya, I'm desperate. Patricia's voice cracked. Jasmine's debate finals are Monday. She needs a professional jacket. I can't afford retail right now, not after David left. David, that cheating piece of trash who'd emptied Patricia's savings account before disappearing to Miami with his 22-year-old secretary. Maya's jaw clenched. Pat, stop. I'll handle it. You're always handling everything. I hate being the broke sister. You're raising my brilliant niece alone. That's heroic. There's a thrift store on Belmore. Treasures and Tales. Patricia's voice pitched higher. Maya, no. You know what people say about that place. Maya's pulse quickened. What do people say? Black folks don't shop there. Not anymore. Strange things happen. Arrests that don't make sense. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I'll be fine, Maya said. Trust me. Maya. Love you. Kiss Jasmine for me. She hung up before Patricia could protest. This was it. Not just shopping reconnaissance. She grabbed her special purse, the one with recording equipment sewn into the lining, courtesy of the Department of Justice Tech Department. Badge number 7829 stayed locked in her safe. Today, she was just another black woman shopping while black. The drive to Belmore Avenue took her through Atlanta's Transformation Zone's neighborhoods where black families were priced out monthly, replaced by yoga studios and craft breweries. Treasures and Tales squatted between a Whole Foods and a boutique selling $300 torn jeans. She parked at 2:58 p.m., noting 3 patrol cars within 2 blocks. Unusual for Saturday afternoon. Unless they were waiting for something. Or someone. The October air bit sharp, carrying the smell of rain and trouble. Maya's grandmother would have called it devil weather when bad things dressed up pretty. She checked her phone's recording app one last time. Federal servers ready. Upload automated. If something happened to her phone, everything was already backed up in triplicate. The store's entrance bell played Dixie. Of course it did. The smell hit like a slap. Mothballs, mildew, and something else. Fear, old fabric soaked in decades of desperation. 4 cameras watched from the corners, but Maya spotted the blind spots immediately. Back left corner between furniture and books. Right side behind the jewelry counter. Places where things could happen without witnesses. Electronic witnesses, anyway. Behind the register, Brittany purple hair pierced everything. Dead eyes looked up from her phone. Her thumb moved differently after seeing Maya. Not scrolling, texting. The girl's eyes flicked toward the back office, then to Maya, then back to her phone. An older white woman, expensively preserved with Botox and yoga, materialized beside the handbags. She clutched her Louis Vuitton purse tighter when Maya passed. The woman's phone was already outheld at that obvious "I'm recording you" angle. Maya moved through the racks methodically. Her mother had taught her to shop white, slow, visible, boring. Don't give them stories to tell, Mama had said. But Mama never knew her daughter would grow up to be the one collecting their stories for federal prosecution. The jackets hung like abandoned dreams. Polyester nightmares from the 80s. Shoulder pads that could take out an eye. Then perfect. Brown leather vintage cut bronze buttons that whispered class. The price tag said $65. More than she'd budgeted, but Jasmine deserved it. Interesting choice. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere. Maya didn't flinch. Law school had beaten that out of her. Marcus Webb, according to his name tag, stood close enough that she could smell his breakfast burrito. Ex-cop written in every line of his body. The kind who'd left the force but never left the power trip. Just shopping, Maya said, keeping her voice Atlanta neutral. That's what they all say. Webb's hand rested where his gun used to be. Muscle memory of authority. Maya took the jacket to the register. Brittany rang it up without eye contact, mumbling $65 like an accusation. Maya paid in exact cash, 320s 15, the receipt printed with a mechanical death rattle. 3:15 p.m. She'd remember that timestamp forever. "Thank you," Maya said clearly loudly. Witnesses everywhere pretended not to watch. She had 15 minutes before she needed to leave. Might as well browse. The book section called to her chaotic towers of forgotten stories. A cookbook caught her eye, Southern comfort recipes from Reconstruction to rights. Someone's grandmother had annotated every page in spidery blue ink. More pepper. Charles loved this. Made for Juneteenth, 1987. That's when the trap sprung. "Ma'am?" Webb's voice could have frozen fire. "Need to check that bag." Maya turned slowly, keeping her hands visible. 23 years of being black in America had taught her this dance. "I just purchased this jacket. Here's my receipt." Webb didn't even glance at it. His radio was already out. "Mr. Pierce need you in books. We got a situation." Situation. Code for black person existing. Ronald Pierce arrived like a roach when lights went out suddenly, inevitably, disgustingly. Sweat beaded his scalp despite the Arctic air conditioning. His eyes did the calculation every racist did: black woman plus merchandise equals theft. "This receipt," Pierce announced loudly, "could be fake." "You can verify it with your register," Maya suggested. "Register's broken." "Then check your cameras." "Cameras are down for maintenance." Lies stacked like bodies. Maya recognized the pattern from 100 cases. Create confusion, establish doubt, justify violence. Pierce's phone was already dialing. "Police? Yes, we have a shoplifter at Treasures and Tales. Black female, approximately 30. She's being aggressive." Aggressive. She hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice. But black women existing was aggression to men like Pierce. Through the window, 2 patrol cars appeared, like sharks smelling blood. Officers Bradley and Martinez entered with the confidence of conquerors. Bradley 6'3", 250 hands. Like ham hocks immediately invaded Maya's space. "Another one thinks she's above the law," he announced to the growing crowd. Martinez, smaller but meaner, pulled out her personal phone. "Going live, everyone. Watch what happens when people think rules don't apply." She was Facebook living this, creating evidence she thought would protect her. Instead, she was documenting her own crimes. "I have a receipt," Maya said clearly, "from 15 minutes ago." "Receipts can be faked," Bradley said, stepping closer. His breath reeked of coffee and contempt. "Then verify it." "You telling me how to do my job?" His hand moved to his cuffs. An elderly black woman near the vintage dresses spoke up. "That young lady paid, I saw her." Bradley spun on her. "Ma'am, you want to go to jail for interfering?" The woman stepped back, but kept her phone up, recording everything. "Hands behind your back," Bradley commanded Maya. "For what crime?" "Theft." "I have a receipt." "Resisting arrest." "I'm standing still." "Threatening an officer." "I haven't spoken above a normal volume." "Now." Maya turned, slowly placed her hands behind her back. The cuffs bit deep, deliberately too tight. Blood would come soon. She didn't flinch. In her pocket, her phone uploaded everything to servers in Washington, Virginia, and Maryland. Triple redundancy. These fools had no idea what they'd just activated. Detective Sharon Cole arrived in an unmarked car designer suit stretched over athletic frame. Ambition radiated from her like heat from asphalt. She took one look at the scene and decided to escalate. "This fits the pattern," she announced. "Organized retail theft. We've been tracking this ring for months." "What ring?" Maya asked. "Don't play dumb. We know about the coordination, the targeting of thrift stores, the insurance fraud." Cole stopped, realizing she'd said too much. Insurance fraud. But who was filing the claims? They dragged Maya outside, past the cameras, past the concerned citizens, past the truth. The backseat of Bradley's cruiser smelled like vomit and Lysol. The handcuffs cut deeper with each bump in the road. Bradley took the long way, hitting every pothole. "You people never learn," he said to Martinez, loud enough for Maya to hear. "Makes our job security, though," Martinez laughed. They had no idea they were driving straight into a federal investigation. No idea that Maya's phone was uploading their every word. No idea that the woman bleeding in their back seat had a file on each of them 3 inches thick. At the precinct, the booking officer processed Maya like meat. Fingerprints, mugshot, belongings in a bag. But when he got to her wallet, his fingers found something behind her driver's license. A card he almost missed. He read it once. Twice. His face went white as processed flour. "Sarge!" His voice cracked like a teenager's. "Sarge, get over here now!" The sergeant waddled over, annoyed. Then he saw the card, read the badge number, the title, the federal seal. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "Get Cole, get the chief, get everybody, now." But it was already too late. The videos were viral. Thrift store arrest had 10 million views. News vans surrounded the building, and somewhere in Washington, phones were ringing in offices that could end careers with a signature. Maya sat in the holding cell, wrists bleeding, clothes ruined, dignity intact. 3 other women shared the space, 2 regulars who knew the system, 1 first-timer crying in the corner. Maya memorized their faces. They'd all get justice now. Through the bars, she heard Bradley on the phone. "No, Chief, she was definitely stealing. I don't care what the video shows. Receipts can be faked." Then a new voice. Federal. "Officer Bradley, this is Special Agent Chen, FBI. We need to discuss your arrest of federal prosecutor Maya Henderson." The sound Bradley made wasn't quite human. Part gasp, part choke, part death rattle of a career ending. Maya allowed herself one small smile. They thought they'd arrested a shoplifter. Instead, they'd arrested their own futures. Her phone sitting in evidence pinged one last time before they turned it off. A message from her team, package delivered to judges, warrants ready, Operation Thrift Shop is go. 67 false arrests were about to become 67 federal cases, and this was just the beginning. Because what Bradley, Martinez, Cole Pierce, and Webb didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined in their wildest nightmares, was that Maya hadn't stumbled into their trap. She'd built her own, and they'd walked right into it, handcuffs and all. The timestamp on her receipt would become famous in legal circles, 3:15 p.m. October 14th, 2023. The moment American justice stopped being patient with racist cops playing judge, jury, and executioner in a damn thrift store. But first, Maya had to survive the night. Because somewhere in this precinct, someone had just made a phone call, and whoever answered wasn't happy about a federal prosecutor in their jail. The lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. In the darkness, Maya heard footsteps approaching her cell. Heavy, deliberate, wrong. This wasn't over, it was just beginning. Retry H-Tao Yuko Vietnam Hoa Giang Tu, sao mày viết có 2 niên từ hai, bang hoàn toàn đúng. Tôi xin lỗi về lỗi này. Để tôi viết lại phần 1 đầy đủ 5 niên từ như yêu cầu. Hook, opening. You people always think you can just take whatever you want. The security guard's spit flew as he cornered Maya Henderson against the thrift store wall. Her receipt timestamp, 3:15 p.m. 15 minutes ago, crumbled in her trembling hand. 3 cops surrounded her now, handcuffs out, cameras rolling everywhere. The blood from her wrists would stain her sister's birthday gift. But these racist cops had just made the biggest mistake of their pathetic careers. They'd arrested the wrong black woman. Dead wrong. Friends, before we expose this shocking corruption, hit subscribe and watch till the end. Comment your city below. Let's see how far justice travels today. Part 1, The Perfect Storm. Maya Henderson's hands shook as she poured her morning coffee. Not from fear, from rage. 67 false arrests. 67 black and brown faces in her files, each with the same story, arrested at Treasures and Tales thrift store, charges mysteriously dropped weeks later. Insurance claims paid out like clockwork. 3 months undercover in Atlanta, and she still didn't have the smoking gun to nail these bastards in federal court. The coffee tasted bitter, like justice delayed. She spread the files across her kitchen table, again studying each face. Thomasina Williams, age 74, arrested for allegedly stealing a $2 cookbook she'd paid for. Marcus Johnson, 19 college freshman, grabbed for suspicious behavior while buying a winter coat for his mother. LaShonda Davis, single mother of 3, handcuffed in front of her children for a pair of children's shoes she had the receipt for. Each file told the same story. Each victim had one thing in common besides their skin color. They'd all been shopping at Treasures and Tales on Belmore Avenue. Her sister Patricia's call interrupted her spiral into fury. Maya almost didn't answer. She was deep in surveillance footage from last week's arrest, watching officers plant evidence in real time. "Maya, I'm desperate." Patricia's voice cracked like autumn leaves. Jasmine's debate finals are Monday. She needs a professional jacket. The other kids, they all have parents who can afford. I just can't right now, not after David left. David, that cheating bastard who'd emptied Patricia's savings account before disappearing to Miami with his 22-year-old secretary. Maya's jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. "Pat, stop. I'll handle it." "You're always handling everything. I hate being the broke sister. I hate that Jasmine has to see me struggle like this. You're raising my brilliant niece alone. That's not struggling, that's heroic. There's a thrift store on Belmore." Treasures and tales, Patricia's voice jumped an octave. Maya, no. Promise me you won't go there. Maya's pulse quickened. Why? What have you heard? People talk Maya at the beauty shop at church. Black folks don't shop there anymore. Strange things happen. Arrests that don't make sense. Mrs. Washington from my book club, her nephew got arrested there last month. He had a receipt, witnesses, everything. They still took him in. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Maya's prosecutor instinct sang. I'll be fine, Maya said. Trust me. Maya, I'm serious. There's something wrong with that place, something evil. Patricia, I promise you, I'll be perfectly safe. You always think you're invincible because you're a lawyer, but they don't care about your degrees when all they see is your skin. If only Patricia knew how right she was, and how prepared Maya was for exactly that. Love you. Kiss Jasmine for me. She hung up before Patricia could protest further. This was it. Not just shopping reconnaissance, maybe even the break she'd been waiting for. She grabbed her special purse, the one with recording equipment sewn into the lining by the Department of Justice Tech Department. The bag looked like any other designer knockoff from Canal Street, but it contained enough surveillance equipment to make the NSA jealous. Badge number 7829 stayed locked in her safe. Today, she was just Maya Henderson, concerned, aunt, regular citizen. Another black woman shopping while black in America. She dressed carefully. Not too nice, that would make her a target for different reasons. Not too casual, that would make her suspicious. The exhausting calculus of existing while black, in spaces where your presence was barely tolerated on good days, actively policed on bad ones. The drive to Belmore Avenue took her through Atlanta's transformation zones neighborhoods where black families who'd lived there for generations were priced out monthly, replaced by yoga studios, craft breweries, and coffee shops selling $8 lattes. Every corner told a story of displacement. The old Baptist church was now luxury condos. The soul food restaurant where her grandmother used to take her was now a cycling studio. Treasures and Tales squatted between a Whole Foods and a boutique selling $300 jeans that came pre-ripped. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. Poor people's clothes sold as vintage to rich people who'd never known actual poverty. She parked at 2:58 p.m., noting 3 patrol cars within 2 blocks. Unusual for Saturday afternoon in this neighborhood, unless they were waiting for something or someone. She photographed the license plates mentally, 2341 5786 9023, all from the same precinct, all positioned with clear sight lines to the thrift store. The October air bit sharp, carrying the smell of rain and something else, anticipation. Her grandmother would have called it devil weather, schwam, when bad things dressed up pretty and smiled while they destroyed you. She checked her phone's recording app one last time. Federal servers in Washington, Virginia, and Maryland ready to receive. Triple redundancy. If something happened to her phone, if they tried to delete evidence, everything was already backed up where they couldn't reach it. The store's entrance bell played Dixie. Of course it did. Nothing like a little Confederate nostalgia to let folks know exactly where they stood. The smell hit like a physical slap, mothballs, mildew, and underneath it all, something else? Fear, decades of desperation soaked into fabric. 4 cameras watched from the corners, but Maya spotted the blind spots immediately. Back left corner between furniture and books, a perfect 8-foot dead zone. Right side behind the jewelry counter, goes another black hole in their surveillance. Places where things could happen without electronic witnesses. She'd bet money those blind spots weren't accidents. Behind the register, a girl with purple hair and more piercings than a pincushion looked up from her phone. Her name tag read Brittany in hostile capitals. The moment she saw Maya, her thumb shifted from scrolling to texting. Quick, urgent movements. Her eyes flicked toward the back office, then to Maya, then back to her phone. Within 30 seconds, an older white woman materialized beside the handbags. Chanel suit probably real. Botox frozen face that couldn't quite hide the contempt in her eyes. She clutched her Louis Vuitton purse tighter when Maya passed, as if poverty was contagious and Maya was patient zero. "Can I help you?" the woman asked, though her tone suggested the only help she wanted to provide was directions to the exit. "Just browsing, thank you," Maya replied in her courtroom voice, neutral, professional, unthreatening. The woman didn't move. Instead, her phone appeared held at that obvious "I'm recording you" angle that wasn't quite subtle enough to be secret, but not quite brave enough to be honest. Maya moved through the racks methodically. Her mother had taught her to shop white, slow movements, visible hands, boring choices. "Don't give them stories to tell," Mama had said. "Don't be memorable. Be invisible." But Mama never knew her daughter would grow up to be the one collecting their stories for federal prosecution. That invisibility would become a weapon turned against those who demanded it. The jacket section looked like a graveyard of fashion mistakes. polyester nightmares from the 80s with shoulder pads that could take out an eye, neon windbreakers that screamed cocaine era, then perfect, brown leather vintage cut but timeless bronze buttons that whisper rather than shouted. The price tag said $65. More than she'd budgeted, but Jasmine deserved it. Interesting choice. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere. Maya didn't flinch. 3 years of federal prosecution had beaten that startle reflex out of her. Marcus Webb, according to his name tag, stood close enough that she could smell his breakfast cigarettes and bad decisions. Everything about him screamed ex-cop. The stance that took up too much space, the way his hand rested where his gun used to be, the dead eyes that had seen too much and learned all the wrong lessons from it. Just shopping, Maya said, keeping her voice Atlanta neutral, no hint of the Ivy League education that would mark her as uppity. That's what they all say. Webb's hand moved to his radio, a gesture meant to be seen, meant to remind her that he had power and she had none. Maya took the jacket to the register, walking with deliberate calm. Not too fast, that would be suspicious. Not too slow, that would be defiant. The perfect pace of submission without admission. Brittany rang it up without making eye contact, mumbling $65 like an accusation rather than a transaction. Maya paid in exact cash, 320s, 15. Always cash for small purchases, a habit from her prosecutor days when she'd seen too many credit card records, subpoenaed too many digital footprints used to build narratives that had nothing to do with truth. The receipt printed with a mechanical death rattle. 3:15 p.m., October 14th, 2023. She'd remember that timestamp forever. It would eventually appear in federal documents and news reports and law school textbooks about civil rights violations in the modern era. "Thank you," Maya said clearly, loudly, making sure her voice carried. Witnesses everywhere pretended not to watch while obviously watching. The American ballet of racial tension, everyone knowing their steps without acknowledging the dance. She had 15 minutes before she needed to leave. Might as well browse, act natural, give them no reason to escalate. The book section called to her chaotic towers of forgotten stories, donated dreams, dead people's libraries scattered like bones. A cookbook caught her eye, Southern comfort recipes from Reconstruction to rights. Someone's grandmother had annotated every page in spidery blue ink. More pepper here. Charles loved this. Made for Juneteenth, 1987. Freedom food. One note said, beside a recipe for cornbread, she was reading about sweet potato pie when the trap sprung. "Ma'am?" Webb's voice could have frozen fire. "Need to check that bag." Maya turned slowly, keeping her hands visible. 23 years of being black in America had taught her this dance. Every movement deliberate, telegraphed, non-threatening. The choreography of survival. "I just purchased this jacket. Here's my receipt." She held it out, at this paper trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the effort of controlling her rage. Webb didn't even glance at it. His radio was already out. The gesture theatrical meant for the growing audience. "Mr. Pierce need you in books. We got a situation." Situation. Code for black person existing in white space. Ronald Pierce arrived like a roach when lights went out suddenly, inevitably, disgustingly. 5'6" of compressed prejudice in a cheap suit. Sweat beaded his scalp despite the Arctic air conditioning. His eyes did the calculation every racist did. Black woman plus merchandise equals theft regardless of evidence. "This receipt," Pierce announced loudly, playing to the phone cameras now openly recording, "could be fake. We've had a lot of that lately." "You can verify it with your register," Maya suggested, voice reasonable calm, the voice she used with hostile witnesses. "Register's broken." The lie came smooth as butter. "Then check your cameras." "Cameras are down for maintenance." Another lie just as smooth. "The timestamp is from 15 minutes ago. Your cashier." "Brittany's on break." Pierce cut her off. Brittany, Maya noticed, had indeed disappeared. Probably warned off by Webb's radio call. Lies stacked like bodies in a mass grave. Maya recognized the pattern from 100 cases. Create confusion, establish doubt, justify what came next. She'd prosecuted cops who'd done this exact thing. Now she was living it. Pierce's phone was already dialing. "Police, yes, we have a shoplifter at Treasures and Tales. Black female, approximately 30. She's being aggressive." Aggressive. She hadn't moved, hadn't raised her voice, had barely gestured. But black women existing was aggression to men like Pierce. Their presence was violence. Their breathing was assault. Through the window, 2 patrol cars appeared like sharks smelling blood and water. They'd been close, too close, waiting. Officers Bradley and Martinez entered with the confidence of conquerors returning to claim territory. Bradley, 6'3", 250 pounds, hands like ham hocks, immediately invaded Maya's space using his bulk as a weapon. "Another one thinks she's above the law," he announced to the growing crowd, his voice pitched to carry, to humiliate, to establish dominance. Martinez, smaller but meaner, pulled out her personal phone. "Going live, everyone. Watch what happens when people think rules don't apply to them." She was Facebook living this, creating what she thought would be evidence to protect them. Instead, she was documenting their own crimes in real time, too arrogant to realize it. "I have a receipt," Maya said clearly, pitching her voice to reach every phone recording. "From 15 minutes ago, I paid $65 cash for this jacket." "Receipts can be faked," Bradley said, stepping closer. His breath reeked of coffee and contempt. "We've seen it all before." "Then verify it. Check the register tape. Check the cameras. Call the cashier." "You telling me how to do my job?" His hand moved to his cuffs. The gesture deliberate, threatening. An elderly black woman near the vintage dresses spoke up, her voice shaking but determined. "That young lady paid. I saw her. I was right behind her in line." Bradley spun on her finger, pointing like a weapon. "Ma'am, you want to go to jail for interfering with police business. Obstruction of justice is a serious charge." The woman stepped back, but kept her phone up, still recording. "I'm just telling you what I saw. That's not a crime." "It is if you're lying to protect a criminal," Martinez chimed in. "She's not a criminal." A young white man in khakis stepped forward. "I saw the whole thing. She paid for that jacket. This is wrong." Martinez turned to him, with an entirely different demeanor, patient, respectful, almost apologetic. "Sir, we appreciate your concern, but we need to follow procedure. Please step back for your safety." The contrast in how she addressed him versus the elderly black woman was stark, deliberate, meant to be seen and felt and understood. "Know your place," the difference said. "Remember who matters." "Hands behind your back," Bradley commanded Maya. "For what crime?" "Theft." "I have a receipt." "Resisting arrest." "I'm standing still." "Threatening an officer." "I haven't raised my voice or made any threatening gestures." "Now." Bradley's roar made several people flinch. Maya turned slowly, placed her hands behind her back. Every movement was calculated for the cameras, for the record, for the federal case she was building with her body as evidence. The cuffs bit deep, deliberately too tight. She felt the metal cut into her skin, felt the warm trickle that would be blood soon. She didn't flinch. Didn't give them the satisfaction. In her pocket, her phone uploaded everything to servers in 3 different states. Triple redundancy. These fools had no idea what they'd just activated. Detective Sharon Cole arrived in an unmarked car, stepping out like she was walking a red carpet. Designer suit that cost more than most people's rent ambition radiating from her like heat from asphalt. She took one look at the scene and decided to escalate. That's what ambitious cops did, found fires and poured gasoline on them, then took credit for the size of the blaze. "This fits the pattern," she announced to the crowd. To the cameras, to the future jury she was already imagining. "Organized retail theft. We've been tracking this ring for months." "What ring?" Maya asked, genuinely curious how deep this fantasy went. "Don't play dumb," Cole snapped. "We know about the coordination, the targeting of thrift stores, the insurance fraud." Cole stopped, realizing she'd said too much. Insurance fraud. But who was filing the claims? Who was benefiting from these arrests? "I want a lawyer," Maya said clearly. "Guilty people always ask for lawyers," Cole announced to the crowd. "If you were innocent, you'd cooperate." "I did cooperate. I showed my receipt. I suggested ways to verify it. You refused every option." "Stop resisting," Bradley suddenly shouted, though Maya hadn't moved. He grabbed her arm, wrenching it at an angle that sent fire through her shoulder. Someone in the crowd gasped. More phones appeared. The modern lynching, Maya thought. Public humiliation as punishment phones instead of postcards, but the same audience, the same hunger for black pain. They dragged her outside, past the cameras, past the concerned citizens, past the truth lying trampled on the store's floor. The back seat of Bradley's cruiser smelled like vomit and Lysol and despair. The plastic seats were deliberately uncomfortable, designed to punish before conviction, sentence before trial. Bradley took the long way to the precinct, hitting every pothole, taking every hard turn. The handcuffs cut deeper with each deliberate jolt. In the rearview mirror, his eyes met hers, and he smiled. He was enjoying this. "You people never learn," he said to Martinez, loud enough for Maya to hear. "Think you can come into nice neighborhoods, take what you want." "Job security, though," Martinez laughed. "As long as they keep acting like animals, we'll keep putting them in cages." They had no idea they were driving straight into a federal investigation. No idea that Maya's phone was uploading their every word, creating a transcript that would end their careers. No idea that the woman bleeding in their back seat had a file on each of them. 3 inches thick, documenting every excessive force complaint, every suspicious arrest, every pattern of bias. At the precinct, the booking area smelled like industrial disinfectant trying to cover decay. The fluorescent lights flickered, giving everything a sickly green tinge. Maya was processed like meat fingers pressed onto digital scanners, face positioned for mugshots, possessions dumped into clear plastic bags. "Empty your pockets," the booking officer demanded, his voice bored. He'd done this dance too many times to care about innocence or guilt. Maya complied, placing her phone wallet keys on the counter. The officer, a young man named Johnson, according to his tag, bagged each item methodically. But when he got to her wallet, his fingers found something behind her driver's license. A card he almost missed tucked into a hidden pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at it, froze. Read it again. His face went white as processed flour, then red, then white again. "Sarge," his voice cracked like a teenager's. "Sarge, get over here now." The sergeant waddled over, annoyed at being interrupted from whatever YouTube video he'd been watching. "What is it, Johnson? Process her and move on. We got 6 more coming in." Johnson held up the card with shaking hands. The sergeant took it, read it once, twice, 3 times. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Jesus Christ," he finally whispered. "Get Cole, get the chief, get everybody, now." But it was already too late. The videos were viral. Hashtag thrift store arrest had 10 million views in the first hour. News vans surrounded the building like antibodies responding to infection. And somewhere in Washington, phones were ringing in offices that could end careers with a signature. Maya sat in the holding cell, wrists bleeding through the bandages a terrified officer had hastily applied, clothes ruined, dignity intact. 3 other women shared the space, 2 regulars who knew the system like a painful old friend, 1 first-timer crying in the corner. "First time?" one of the regulars asked her. "In a way," Maya replied. "Gets easier, or you get number, same difference." Through the bars, she heard Bradley on the phone, his voice rising with panic. "No, Chief, she was definitely stealing." "I don't care what the video shows. Receipts can be faked." "What do you mean, federal prosecutor?" Then a new voice. Calm, official, deadly. "Officer Bradley, this is Special Agent Chen, FBI. We need to discuss your arrest of Federal Prosecutor Maya Henderson, Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division, badge number 7829. The sound Bradley made wasn't quite human. Part gas, part choke, part death rattle of a career ending in real time. Through the bars, Maya watched him sink into a chair, his face cycling through the stages of grief, at speed denial, anger, bargaining depression, and finally, the kind of acceptance that came with knowing you were completely, utterly, irreversibly fucked. The sound of Bradley's career dying echoed through the precinct as Maya watched him collapse into his desk chair. Martinez stood frozen beside him, her Facebook Live still streaming to thousands of viewers who were now witnessing the complete meltdown of 2 officers who'd just arrested a federal prosecutor. "Turn that off," Chief Williams roared as he burst through the door, his face purple with rage. Martinez fumbled with her phone, but her shaking hands couldn't find the end button. The phone clattered to the floor, still broadcasting as Williams grabbed Bradley by the collar. "Tell me you didn't. Tell me you didn't just arrest a federal prosecutor for shopping while black." "Chief, we didn't know. You didn't know. You didn't verify her receipt. You didn't check the cameras. You didn't do basic police work." Maya heard every word from her holding cell. The other women watched her with new interest. The regular who'd spoken earlier, a woman named Denise, according to her faded tattoo, moved closer to the bars. "Federal prosecutor girl, you've been playing them this whole time." Maya remained silent, but something in her expression made Denise laugh, a harsh sound like broken glass. "Oh shit, oh shit, they'd unstepped in it now." The first-timer in the corner stopped crying. "What's happening? What does this mean?" "Means these racist cops just handed the feds everything they need," Denise explained. "Means we might actually see some justice for once." Through the bars, Maya watched Detective Cole pace frantically, her designer heels clicking like a countdown timer. She was on her phone speaking rapidly to someone who clearly wasn't interested in excuses. "No, sir, I had no idea. The arrest was already in progress when I arrived." "Yes, sir, I understand the implications." "Federal investigation." "What federal investigation?" Agent Chen arrived at 5:47 p.m. according to the precinct clock that hadn't been right since 2019. He was everything Cole wasn't calm. collected carrying authority like a comfortable jacket rather than armor. 2 other agents flanked him, their faces expressing nothing but their eyes recording everything. "Where's Prosecutor Henderson?" Chen asked quietly. Somehow his quiet voice carried more weight than all of Williams' shouting. "She's in holding," Williams stammered. "We were just about to release her." "You were just about to release a federal prosecutor you illegally arrested, assaulted, and imprisoned." Chen's voice remained level, but Williams stepped back as if he'd been slapped. "It was a misunderstanding." "No, a misunderstanding is when you accidentally take someone's coffee at Starbucks. This is a federal civil rights violation. This is conspiracy to deprive rights under color of law. This is the end of your careers and possibly your freedom." Maya heard Key's rattling footsteps approaching. Johnson, the booking officer who'd found her credentials, appeared at her cell door. His hands shook so badly it took him 3 tries to unlock it. "Ms. Henderson, I mean Prosecutor Henderson, I'm so sorry. We didn't know." Maya stood slowly, her wrists still bleeding through the hasty bandages. "You didn't know I was a prosecutor, but you knew I was innocent. You had my receipt, you had witnesses, you had video, you knew." Johnson's face crumbled. He was young, maybe 25, probably thought he was one of the good ones. The realization that he wasn't hit him like a physical blow. I just process who they bring in. That's what they all say at trials. I was just following orders. It didn't work at Nuremberg. It won't work here." She walked past him, past the other cells where black and brown faces watched with a mixture of hope and cynicism. How many of them had receipts too? How many had witnesses who were ignored, evidence that was dismissed? Truth that was buried under the weight of blue lies. In the main area, chaos reigned. Chen had Bradley and Martinez separated. Different agents taking their statements. Cole sat at her desk frantically deleting files from her computer, not realizing that Chen's team had already imaged the hard drive remotely. Prosecutor Henderson shook. Chen stood as she approached. "We need to get you medical attention for your wrists." "After we document the injuries," Maya replied. "Every cut, every bruise. Everything needs to be photographed, measured, recorded." "Of course," Chen gestured to one of his agents who produced a camera. "We've already retrieved all surveillance footage from the store, the street cameras, and the patrol car dash cams." "They said the cameras were broken." "They lied. The footage is quite clear. It shows you purchasing the jacket at 3:15 p.m. paying cash, receiving a receipt. It shows you browsing peacefully until Webb confronted you at 3:31 p.m. 16 minutes. That's all it had taken for her to go from customer to criminal in their eyes. Or maybe she'd been a criminal the moment she'd walked in with her black skin. Williams approached cautiously, like Maya was a bomb that might explode. "Prosecutor Henderson, on behalf of the department, I want to apologize. Save it for the deposition." Maya cut him off. "Where's my phone?" "In evidence. I'll get it immediately." "No, Agent Chen will retrieve it, maintaining chain of custody. Everything in this precinct is now evidence in a federal investigation." Williams' face went from purple to gray. "Federal investigation?" Maya smiled for the first time since her arrest. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Did you think I was shopping for jackets randomly? I've been investigating your department for 3 months. The systematic targeting of minorities at Treasures entails. The insurance fraud scheme. The kickbacks from store owners. 67 false arrests that I've documented so far." Cole stood up so fast her chair fell over. "You can't prove any of that." "Actually, I can. You see, Detective Cole, when you said insurance fraud at the store, you revealed something you shouldn't have known. How did you know about insurance claims being filed unless you were part of the scheme?" Cole's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Around the room, officers began to understand the magnitude of their situation. This wasn't just about one false arrest. This was about a pattern, a conspiracy, a system that was about to be exposed. Chen's phone rang. He answered and listened, then handed it to Maya. "It's Director Patterson." Maya took the phone. "Director?" "Maya, are you injured?" "Minor cuts and bruises, nothing that won't heal." "Good, because I need you functional. What you've uncovered is bigger than we thought. The arrest videos have gone viral. 20 million views and climbing. The Attorney General wants to make a statement. The President has been briefed." The President. This is the test case we've been waiting for, Maya. Clear evidence of systematic civil rights violations. We're sending a team tonight. Every officer involved, every store owner who participated, every insurance company that paid out false claims, we're taking them all down. Maya felt the weight of it, the years of work leading to this moment. What about the victims, the 67 people who were falsely arrested? Full restitution, expunged records. and we're opening a victims fund. Anyone falsely arrested at that store in the past 5 years can file a claim. 5 years. How many victims would that be? Hundreds, thousands. I need you to hold a press conference, Patterson continued. Tonight, while the story is hot, while the world is watching. Maya looked down at her ruined clothes, her bloody wrists, her disheveled appearance. You look like a victim of police brutality who happens to be a federal prosecutor. That's exactly how you should look. Don't clean up, don't change. Let them see what these officers did to someone who had every legal protection. Then let them imagine what they do to people who don't. The phone went dead. Maya handed it back to Chen, who was coordinating with his team. More agents were arriving, some in FBI windbreakers, others in suits that screamed federal authority. Pierce arrived in handcuffs, with Webb beside him, both being read their rights by agents who looked like they'd been waiting for this moment. Pierce was crying, actual tears streaming down his face. I didn't know she was a prosecutor. I was just following protocol. What protocol involves filing false insurance claims? Chen asked. Pierce's tears stopped. I want a lawyer. Smart choice. You'll need a good one. Insurance fraud. Conspiracy to violate civil rights. False imprisonment. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Webb spoke up, his ex-cop bravado finally cracking. I'll cooperate. I'll tell you everything. The whole system, how it works, who's involved. Too late, Chen replied. We already know. 3 months of investigation, remember? We have your emails, your texts, your bank records showing the kickbacks. You had your chance to be a whistleblower. Now you're just a defendant. At 6:15 p.m., the media arrived in force. Not just local news, but CNN, MSNBC, Fox, everyone. The story was perfect for the news cycle video, evidence, clear injustice, a twist ending that no one saw coming. Maya watched from inside as reporters set up each one crafting their narrative. A shocking revelation tonight in Atlanta. Federal prosecutor arrested while shopping. Systematic racism exposed in explosive video. Sits. Williams tried to control the narrative standing before the cameras in his dress uniform. This was an unfortunate misunderstanding that we deeply regret. A reporter cut him off. Chief Williams, how is arresting someone with a receipt a misunderstanding? Our officers were following what they believed. Chief, is it true that 67 similar false arrests have occurred at the same store? Williams' spokesman tried to end the conference, but the questions kept coming like bullets. How many officers are involved in the insurance fraud scheme? Will you be resigning? Has the Department of Justice taken over the investigation? Inside Maya prepared for her own press conference. Chen had offered to let her clean up, but she remembered Patterson's words. Let them see. Let them understand. Denise and the other women from holding were being released, their charges dropped in the panic to contain the damage. Denise stopped by Maya on her way out. You did this for all of us, didn't you? Took that arrest to expose them. Nobody should go through what we went through, Maya replied. But you chose to. That's the difference. You walked into that trap knowing what would happen. Someone had to. Denise hugged her, surprising them both. Thank you for seeing us, for making them see us. At 7:00 p.m. sharp, Maya walked out to face the cameras. The crowd had grown to hundreds, protesters, supporters, witnesses from the store, including the elderly woman who'd tried to defend her. Maya stood at the makeshift podium, her bloody wrists visible, her clothes still wrinkled from the patrol car, her dignity intact despite everything they'd tried to take from her. My name is Maya Henderson. I'm a senior federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Today I was arrested for shopping while black. The crowd erupted. She waited for quiet. I had a receipt. I had witnesses. I had done nothing wrong except exist in a space where my existence was seen as criminal. But I'm not here to talk about just my arrest. I'm here to talk about the 67 people who came before me, the ones who didn't have federal badges to protect them, the ones whose stories were dismissed, whose truth was ignored, whose rights were violated while the world looked away. She pulled out a folder Chen had given her thick with documents. Thomasina Williams, 74, arrested for buying a cookbook. Marcus Johnson, 19, arrested for buying a coat for his mother. LaShonda Davis arrested in front of her 3 children for buying shoes she had a receipt for. Each of them was processed, jailed, humiliated. Some lost jobs, some lost custody battles, some lost their faith in justice, all because they shopped while black. The crowd was silent now, hanging on every word. For 3 months, I've investigated this systematic violation of civil rights. What I found was not just racism, but organized crime. Store owners filing false insurance claims for merchandise that was never stolen. Officers receiving kickbacks for each arrest. A conspiracy that goes from the street cop all the way to, she paused, knowing the next words would explode like bombs, all the way to members of the city council and the mayor's office. The eruption was instantaneous. Reporters shouting questions, phones ringing, cameras flashing like lightning. Maya raised her hand for silence. The Department of Justice is now conducting a full investigation. Every false arrest will be reviewed. Every victim will be compensated. Every participant in this conspiracy will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of federal law. A reporter shouted, "Prosecutor Henderson, what about the officers who arrested you? Officers Bradley and Martinez are currently in federal custody. Detective Cole is under investigation for her role in the conspiracy." Chief Williams. She looked directly at Williams, who was watching from the precinct door. Chief Williams has questions to answer about how this happened under his watch for years without intervention. Are you saying the chief knew Maya smiled slightly. I'm saying that ignorance is not innocence. A leader who doesn't know about systematic crimes in their department is either complicit or incompetent. Either way, they shouldn't be leading. Another reporter, what about the store Treasures and Tales? Closed pending investigation. Manager Pierce and security guard Webb are in custody. We've seized their records, which show a clear pattern of targeting minority customers, especially on weekends when they knew patrol cars would be nearby. How much money was stolen through insurance fraud? Preliminary estimates suggest over $2 million in the past 5 years. But this isn't just about money, it's about dignity, it's about civil rights. It's about the promise that in America you're innocent until proven guilty, not guilty because of your skin color. An elderly black man in the crowd called out, "What about other stores? This ain't just happening at one thrift shop." Maya nodded. "You're right. This investigation is expanding. We're looking at similar patterns at 15 other locations across Atlanta. If you or someone you know has been falsely arrested while shopping, please contact the federal hotline we're establishing tonight." She gave the number, repeating it twice as everyone scrambled to write it down. Prosecutor Henderson. A young black reporter asked, her voice shaking slightly, "How did it feel being arrested knowing you'd done nothing wrong?" Maya considered the question, letting the silence build. It felt like history repeating itself. Like my grandmother's stories about segregation. Like my mother's experiences with discrimination. Like every black person's nightmare that we're told is just paranoia until it happens on camera for the world to see. But it also felt like purpose, because I knew that my temporary humiliation could mean permanent change. Will you be suing the department? This isn't about personal lawsuits. This is about systematic reform. However, the Department of Justice will be seeking federal oversight of this police department, mandatory retraining on civil rights and de-escalation, and the establishment of a civilian review board with actual power to fire officers who violate citizens' rights. Chief Williams stepped forward, trying to regain control. "That's not the union won't." "The union," Maya said, turning to face him directly, "doesn't supersede federal law, and if they try to protect officers who violate civil rights, they'll find themselves under investigation too." Williams retreated, his face ashen. At 8:00 p.m., Maya's phone rang. It was Patricia. "Maya? Oh my God, I just saw the news. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Pat." "Fine. You're bleeding on national television. You were arrested. You wait. Did you do this on purpose?" Maya's silence was answer enough. "Maya Henderson, did you get yourself arrested at that racist thrift store to expose them? Jasmine still needs a jacket for her debate. Don't you dare change the subject. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't. And now 67 people are going to get justice. More probably. This is what I do, Pat. This is why I became a prosecutor." Patricia was crying now. "You're insane. You're brilliant and insane, and I love you, and I'm going to kill you myself when I see you." "I love you too. Tell Jasmine I'll get her a better jacket. From a store that doesn't profile customers." After hanging up, Maya found herself surrounded by the other victims who'd come forward. They shared their stories, each one a variation on the same theme. Suspected, accused, arrested, humiliated. Marcus Johnson's mother was there clutching a photo of her son. They kept him for 3 days. He missed his midterm exams, lost his scholarship, all for buying a $30 coat. "We're going to make this right," Maya promised. "Can you give him his scholarship back? Can you erase the trauma? Can you make it so when employers Google his name, they don't see arrested for shoplifting before they see honor student?" Maya had no answer for that. Justice could punish the guilty, but it couldn't undo the harm. At 9:00 p.m., the first dominoes began to fall. Councilman Derek Morrison, who'd been receiving kickbacks for ensuring police presence near the store, resigned effective immediately. The insurance company that had been paying out false claims announced an internal investigation. 3 more officers came forward as whistleblowers hoping for leniency. Bradley, watching his career and freedom disappear, made a desperate play. "I want to make a deal. I have recordings. Conversations with the mayor about keeping the arrests quiet." Chen raised an eyebrow. The mayor knew. Everyone knew. It was an open secret. Cleaning up Belmore Avenue, they called it, making it safe for development by driving out the undesirable elements. Maya felt the scope of it expanding. This wasn't just about false arrests. It was about gentrification through criminalization. It was about using the justice system as a weapon of displacement. "Get me those recordings," Chen ordered. By 10:10 p.m., Mayor Richardson was holding his own press conference trying to get ahead of the storm. "I am shocked and appalled by these revelations. Any city employee found to be involved will be terminated immediately. We will cooperate fully with the federal investigation." But even as he spoke, agents were executing search warrants at his office, his home, his campaign headquarters. The recordings Bradley provided were damning. "Just keep those people moving along," Richardson's voice said on one recording. "I don't care how you do it. We need that area cleaned up before the developers come in." Maya listened to the recording in Chen's temporary command center set up in a hotel near the precinct. The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. It wasn't just one store or one neighborhood. It was a coordinated effort to criminalize black presence in gentrifying areas. "We have enough to bring RICO charges," Chen said. "This is organized crime." "It always was," Maya replied. "We just didn't call it that when the criminals wore badges and suits." Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You think you won? This is bigger than you know. Back off, or everyone you love pays the price." She showed it to Chen, who immediately started a trace. "They're threatening a federal prosecutor. They're desperate. Desperate people do stupid things." Another text, "Your sister Patricia, your niece Jasmine. We know where they live." Maya's blood turned to ice. This was no longer about her. They were threatening her family. "We need protective custody for my sister and niece, now." Chen was already on it, dispatching agents to Patricia's house, but Maya knew this was far from over. She'd pulled a thread and the whole fabric of corruption was unraveling. The question was, how many people would it bury in its collapse? At 11:00 p.m., she stood in her hotel room, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there in offices and homes and back rooms, people were shredding documents, deleting files, crafting alibis. The machine of corruption was trying to protect itself. But it was too late. The videos were viral. The evidence was secured. The federal government was engaged. And Maya Henderson, who'd walked into that thrift store as a customer and left in handcuffs, had become the catalyst for something bigger than any of them had imagined. Her phone rang. Director Patterson again. "Maya, the Attorney General, wants to expand the investigation nationally. Similar patterns have been identified in 12 other cities. You've opened Pandora's box." "Good," Maya said, touching the bandages on her wrists. "It needed opening. This is going to get uglier before it gets better. They're going to come after you, your record, your family, everything." "Let them come. I have something they don't." "What's that?" "The truth, and 67 people, probably more, who are ready to tell it." She hung up and closed her eyes, exhausted, but not defeated. Tomorrow would bring more battles, more threats, more revelations. But tonight, for the first time in 3 months, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Because change never came from comfort. It came from conflict. From people willing to bleed for justice, literally in her case. From small acts of courage that exposed great systems of oppression. Her wrists throbbed, but she smiled. They'd arrested the wrong black woman, and now they'd pay the price for every single one they'd arrested before her. The hotel room phone rang at 3:47 a.m., jarring Maya from a restless sleep filled with dreams of handcuffs and courtrooms. She answered on the third ring, her voice hoarse. "Ms. Henderson, this is Agent Davis downstairs. We have a situation. Your sister and niece are here with their protection detail. There was an incident." Maya was already pulling on clothes, her heart hammering. "What kind of incident?" "They're safe, ma'am, but someone tried to breach their home. We need to move you all to a secure location immediately." Patricia and Jasmine were in the hotel lobby, still in their pajamas, Patricia clutching a duffel bag she'd grabbed in the evacuation. Jasmine, 16, and trying to be brave, had tears tracking down her cheeks. "Aunt Maya, they broke our windows. They spray-painted things on our house." Maya pulled them both into a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault." "No," Patricia said firmly. "This is their fault. The people who've been terrorizing our community for years. You're just the first one with the power to fight back." Agent Chen appeared looking like he hadn't slept either. "The house is being processed as a crime scene. The messages they painted, They're explicitly threatening a federal prosecutor. That's another federal charge. What did they write? Maya asked. Chen hesitated. Racial slurs, threats, and drop the case or drop dead. Jasmine started crying harder. Why do they hate us so much? Maya knelt beside her niece. They don't hate us, baby. They fear us. They fear what happens when we stand up, when we demand justice, when we refuse to be silent. But why attack our house? Because they're losing. This is what desperation looks like. This is what happens when corrupt systems start to crumble. Chen's phone buzzed. He answered, his face growing grim. There's been a development. Officer Bradley is dead. The lobby seemed to freeze. Maya stood slowly. How? Apparent suicide. Guards found him in his federal holding cell an hour ago. He left a note. What does it say? Chen handed her his phone, showing a photographed note in Bradley's shaky handwriting. I was just following orders. They said it would make the neighborhood better. They said those people were criminals anyway. I didn't know about the money until it was too late to get out. Tell my kids I'm sorry. The mayor knew everything. Check his cabin. Check the basement. Maya felt no satisfaction, only a hollow sadness. Bradley was a racist, a corrupt cop, a man who'd hurt dozens of innocent people, but he was also a father, a human being who'd chosen hatred and paid the ultimate price. We need to get to that cabin, Chen said. After my family is secure, Maya insisted. They moved to a federal safe house in Decatur, a nondescript ranch house that looked identical to every other house on the street. But Maya knew the windows were bulletproof, the doors reinforced the security system state-of-the-art. Patricia put Jasmine to bed in one of the back rooms, then returned to sit with Maya at the kitchen table. How deep does this go, Patricia asked. Deeper than I thought. This isn't just about false arrests. It's about using the criminal justice system to ethnically cleanse neighborhoods for gentrification. It's about millions in insurance fraud. It's about a conspiracy that goes from beat cops to the mayor's office. And they're willing to kill to protect it. Bradley wasn't a suicide, Pat. I'm sure of it. Patricia's hands shook as she poured coffee. Then we're not safe. Even here. You're safe, I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep, Maya. We both know what these people are capable of. At 6:00 a.m., Chen returned with a federal warrant for Mayor Richardson's cabin. Maya insisted on going, despite Chen's protests about her safety. This is my case. I'm seeing it through. The cabin sat 40 miles north of Atlanta, surrounded by woods that whispered with October wind. It looked innocent enough, a rich man's weekend retreat. But the basement told a different story. Files. Hundreds of them. Each one documenting a false arrest, complete with photos, fabricated evidence, and insurance claim forms. But more damning were the ledgers showing payment distributions. Officers got $500 per arrest. Detectives got $1,000. Store owners got 30% of insurance payouts. And at the top, taking the biggest cut, was Mayor Richardson. Jesus Christ, Chen breathed. This goes back 8 years. Richardson's been running this since before he was mayor, when he was a councilman. Maya picked up a file at random. Destiny Washington, age 22, arrested for stealing baby formula she'd paid for, lost her job, lost custody of her baby. The insurance payout was $8,000. $8,000, Maya said quietly. They destroyed this woman's life for $8,000. Another file. Jerome Patterson, 45, arrested for stealing work boots. Spent 6 months in jail before charges were dropped. Died of a heart attack 2 weeks after release. Insurance payout $3,000. These aren't just victims, Maya realized. These are murder victims. They killed people with paperwork and procedure instead of bullets, but it's still murder. Chen's phone rang. He listened, then went pale. Detective Cole is dead too, found in her apartment. Apparent overdose. She didn't use drugs, Maya said immediately. I've studied her for months. She was ambitious, careful, health conscious. She didn't even drink. They're cleaning house, Chen said. Eliminating witnesses. Maya's phone buzzed. Unknown number again. 2 down. Stop now or you're next. She showed Chen, who immediately started coordinating increased security. But Maya knew they couldn't protect everyone. How many others involved in this conspiracy would die before she could get them into protective custody? At 8:00 a.m., Mayor Richardson held another press conference, this time with his lawyer present. The allegations against me are baseless political attacks. I have served this city with honor for 12 years. I will not be driven from office by lies and innuendo. But even as he spoke, federal agents were raiding his offices, his homes, his campaign headquarters. The evidence from the cabin was overwhelming. By 9:00 a.m., Richardson was in federal custody. The first court appearance was scheduled for that afternoon, an emergency session given the high-profile nature of the case. Maya would be testifying, laying out the evidence she'd gathered over 3 months, plus what they'd discovered in the past 12 hours. She sat in the federal prosecutor's office preparing her testimony when Marcus Johnson walked in, the young man whose scholarship had been lost, whose future had been derailed by a false arrest. "Ms. Henderson, I wanted to thank you." "Don't thank me, I should have exposed this sooner." "You couldn't have known how deep it went." "I knew enough. I knew innocent people were being arrested. I should have acted sooner." Marcus sat down across from her. "My mother wants to know if we can sue. Not for money, but for change. For guarantees this won't happen again." "Yes, we're filing a federal civil rights lawsuit on behalf of all victims. But Marcus, I need you to know something. This is going to get ugly. They're going to dig into every victim's past, trying to find something, anything, to justify what they did." "Let them dig. I've got nothing to hide." "None of us do. That's why they had to frame us." At noon, Maya stood in the federal courthouse bathroom staring at her reflection. The bruises on her wrists had darkened to purple-black. Her face showed the exhaustion of the past 48 hours. But her eyes burned with determination. Her phone rang. "Patricia." "Maya, turn on the news now." She found a television in the prosecutor's break room. Every channel was covering the same story: federal prosecutor exposes massive conspiracy, and mayor arrested in insurance fraud scheme, and the thrift store trap, how many victims. But one channel had something different, a leaked video from inside the precinct showing Bradley and Martinez laughing about their arrest. "Another one bites the dust," Bradley said on the video. "Easiest money I ever made." "How many is that this month?" Martinez asked. 15. That's 7,500 for me." "Richardson's going to be happy. He wants that whole area cleared before the development deal goes through." Maya felt sick. They'd been keeping score. Human misery was a game to them. Lives destroyed were points on a board. The courtroom was packed. Media victims, community activists, all crammed into every available seat. Judge Catherine Morrison, a federal judge known for her stance on civil rights, presided. Richardson entered in handcuffs, his expensive suit replaced with a federal detention jumpsuit. He looked smaller, somehow deflated, without his power. "The United States versus David Richardson et al., Sakin," the clerk announced. Charges include conspiracy to violate civil rights, insurance fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Richardson's lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Brennan, who'd defended mobsters and politicians, stood immediately. "Your Honor, these charges are absurd. My client is a respected public servant." "Your client," Judge Morrison interrupted, "is accused of orchestrating a criminal conspiracy that destroyed hundreds of lives." "Sit down, Mr. Brennan." Maya was called to testify. She walked to the stand, raised her right hand, and swore to tell the truth. The whole truth that Atlanta's power structure had tried to bury. "State your name for the record." "Maya Henderson, Senior Federal Prosecutor, Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division." "Ms. Henderson, please tell the court how you became involved in this investigation." Maya looked at Richardson, who was staring at her with naked hatred. 3 months ago, we received complaints about a pattern of false arrests in Atlanta, specifically targeting African Americans and Latinos at retail locations. I was assigned to investigate. What I found was not isolated incidents, but a coordinated conspiracy. She laid out the evidence methodically. The pattern of arrests, the insurance claims, the payments to officers, the connections to Richardson's development plans. "Let me understand," Judge Morrison said. "You're saying the mayor used the police to falsely arrest minorities to drive them out of neighborhoods he wanted to develop." "Yes, Your Honor, but it went further. They also profited from insurance fraud, splitting the payouts among conspirators." "How many victims are we talking about?" "Confirmed 237 over 8 years, but we believe the actual number is much higher." Brennan stood for cross-examination, his smile sharp as a blade. "Ms. Henderson, isn't it true that you deliberately got yourself arrested to manufacture evidence?" "I made a legal purchase and was falsely arrested for it." "But you knew you would be arrested, didn't you?" "You planned it." "I suspected I might face discrimination given the pattern I'd documented. That's not entrapment, counselor. That's investigation." "You recorded officers without their knowledge." "In a public place where there's no expectation of privacy, yes. And you didn't identify yourself as a federal prosecutor. I wasn't acting as a prosecutor. I was shopping. I was under no obligation to announce my profession while buying a jacket." Brennan tried another angle. "These officers thought you were stealing Based on what evidence? They had suspicions. Based on my race. Is that your argument, counselor, that being black is suspicious? The courtroom murmured. Brennan retreated. Richardson suddenly stood up. This is a setup. She entrapped us, this black bitch. The courtroom exploded. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked like gunfire. Mr. Richardson, you will control yourself or be removed. She destroyed everything, my career, my life, over some criminals. The only criminals I see, Maya said clearly, are the ones who perverted justice for profit. Richardson lunged toward the witness stand. Marshals tackled him, dragging him out as he screamed obscenities. His mask had finally slipped, completely revealing the ugly truth beneath the politician's smile. Judge Morrison called a recess. Maya sat in the witness room, hands shaking mom with delayed adrenaline. Chen entered with news. 3 more officers just flipped. They're providing evidence about other cities. This is nationwide, Maya. The same pattern in Houston, Chicago, Philadelphia. How many victims? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The magnitude of it was staggering. This wasn't just corruption. It was a systematic assault on civil rights across America. When court resumed, Richardson was back shackled now with additional marshals present. His lawyer looked defeated. Your Honor, given my client's outburst, we'd like to discuss a plea arrangement. That's up to the prosecution, Judge Morrison said, looking at Maya. Maya stood. The United States will consider a plea deal on one condition. Full cooperation, every name, every payment, every victim, complete disclosure of the entire network. Richardson's face twisted. I want immunity. You orchestrated the destruction of hundreds of lives for profit. There will be no immunity. The best you can hope for is a reduced sentence in exchange for cooperation. They'll kill me. You know they will, just like Bradley and Cole. Then you better start talking fast. Richardson broke. Over the next 3 hours, he detailed the entire operation. How it started when developers approached him about cleaning up certain neighborhoods. How he recruited Pierce and other store owners. How he used police quotas to incentivize arrests. How the insurance companies were in on it, getting kickbacks for approving fraudulent claims. Who else is involved? Maya pressed. The police union president, 3 city council members, 2 state representatives, federal ICE agents who helped with Latino victims by threatening deportation. Each name was another bomb, another career destroyed, another cell door closing. Who ordered the hits on Bradley and Cole? Richardson went silent. Answer the question, Judge Morrison ordered. I don't know for certain, but there's someone above me, someone who coordinates this across cities. I only know them as the architect. Maya felt the case splitting open even wider. This wasn't just about Atlanta. This was about a national network using law enforcement as a weapon of social engineering. At 6:00 p.m., Judge Morrison delivered her ruling. Given the evidence presented, Mr. Richardson is remanded to federal custody without bail. Trial is set for 6 weeks from today. As Richardson was led away, he looked back at Maya. You have no idea what you've started. The architect won't let this stand. Outside the courthouse, hundreds had gathered, victims, families, activists. They held signs with names and photos of those who'd been falsely arrested. As Maya emerged, they began to applaud. Thomasina Williams, the 74-year-old woman arrested for buying a cookbook, approached. Thank you, she said simply. You gave us our dignity back. You never lost it, Maya replied. They tried to steal it, but dignity isn't something that can be taken. Only surrendered. And you never surrendered. That evening in the safe house, Maya sat with Patricia and Jasmine eating Chinese takeout and trying to pretend everything was normal. Are we going to be okay? Jasmine asked. We're going to be better than okay, Maya said. We're going to change things. But what about the architect? What if they come after us? Maya looked at her niece, so young but already so aware of the world's dangers. Then we face them, together, like we always have. Her phone buzzed. Director Patterson. Maya, the Attorney General, wants to expand your investigation. Full resources. Blank check. Find the architect. Take down the whole network. I'll need a team. You'll have 50 agents, whatever you need. After hanging up, Maya stood at the window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, the architect was watching, planning, preparing. But so was she. The battle for the thrift store was over. The war for justice had just begun. Chen appeared at her shoulder. We've identified 17 more cities with the same pattern. This is going to take years, Cyrus, to prosecute. Then we better get started. You know they're going to come at you with everything they have. Your past, your family, anything they can use. Let them come. I've got something they don't. What's that? 237 reasons to never give up. 237 faces that deserve justice, and now thousands more across the country. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Henderson, this is Special Agent Williams from the Philadelphia office. We found something. The architect. We think we know who it is, but you're not going to believe it. Try me. It's a federal judge. Someone who's been using their position to coordinate and protect this network for over a decade. Maya felt the ground shift beneath her feet. A federal judge. Someone with the power to dismiss cases, to protect conspirators, to pervert justice at the highest level. Who... We're still confirming, but... Maya, they've been watching you. They've been watching this case. They know everything. The line went dead. Maya tried calling back, but got nothing. She looked at Chen. We need to move. Now. As they prepared to evacuate, Maya thought about that morning in the thrift store, how simple it had seemed. Buy a jacket for Jasmine. Stand up to some racist cops. Expose local corruption. But she'd pulled a thread that connected to a web spanning the entire country, and now the spider at the center of that web knew her name. The safe house phone rang. Maya hesitated, then answered. Hello, Ms. Henderson. The voice was cultured, educated, terrifying in its calm. I'm what Mr. Richardson calls the architect. I think it's time we talked. I don't negotiate with criminals. Criminal, I prefer visionary. I'm creating the America of tomorrow. Clean, safe, profitable. You're standing in the way of progress. I'm standing in the way of fascism. Such dramatic words. I'm offering you a choice. Walk away, take your family and disappear. Live comfortable lives far from here, or continue this crusade and watch everyone you love suffer. You just threatened a federal prosecutor. That's a felony. Prove it. I'm calling from a phone that doesn't exist from a location you'll never find. But my reach is very real. Ask Bradley. Ask Cole. Oh wait, you can't. The line went dead. Maya looked at her team, her family. The case files spread across the table. The architect was right about one thing. This was war, and in war, people died. But Maya had learned something in that thrift store bleeding in handcuffs while cameras rolled. Sometimes you had to bleed to make others see. Sometimes you had to sacrifice to create change. Pack everything, she told the room. We're going off the grid. If the architect wants a fight, they've got one. As they loaded into federal vehicles racing toward an uncertain future, Maya thought about all the victims still waiting for justice. She wouldn't let them down. She couldn't. The thrift store arrest had been the spark. Now came the fire. The federal convoy raced through Atlanta's empty streets at 2:00 a.m., Maya clutching Jasmine's hand as they sped toward an undisclosed location. Chen drove the lead vehicle, constantly checking mirrors for tails. The architect's threat echoed in Maya's mind. Everyone you love will suffer. Her phone buzzed. Director Patterson. Maya, we've identified the architect. You're not going to believe this. Who is it, Sid? Federal Judge Harold Whitman, appointed 12 years ago. He's been dismissing civil rights cases, protecting corrupt cops, and coordinating this network from the federal bench. Maya's blood ran cold. Whitman had presided over 3 of her cases. He'd had access to everything evidence strategies witness lists. He'd been watching her investigate while protecting the very criminals she was hunting. Where is he now? That's the problem. He disappeared 6 hours ago. His detail says he had a family emergency, but we think he's running. Another phone buzzed. Chen's. He answered, his face immediately paling. There's been an incident at the Federal Detention Center. Richardson is dead. Let me guess, Maya said bitterly. Suicide. Hanging. Guards found him an hour ago, but Maya, he left something. A video on his lawyer's phone recorded just before he died. They pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a federal building. As they rushed inside, Maya watched Richardson's final message on Chen's tablet. Richardson looked terrified, his eyes darting around his cell. If you're watching this, I'm already dead. Judge Whitman is the architect. He came to me 12 years ago with a plan. Use the justice system to reshape America. Drive out the poor, the black, the brown. Make room for better citizens, he called them. I thought it was just about money. But for him, it was about creating a white ethno-state, one neighborhood at a time. Richardson held up a piece of paper. These are account numbers. Offshore accounts where Whitman hides the money. Hundreds of millions. But that's not the worst part. He has a list, every civil rights lawyer, every progressive prosecutor, every federal agent who might oppose him. He calls it the Purge List. Maya Henderson, you're number 1. The video cut out. Maya felt the weight of it crushing down. She wasn't just investigating corruption anymore. She was fighting for survival against a federal judge with the power to destroy her legally before killing her physically. Patricia grabbed Maya's arm. We need to leave the country, take Jasmine and run. I can't do that. You can't fight a federal judge. He has the entire system at his disposal. Not the entire system, just the corrupt parts. Chen's phone rang again. He listened, then turned to Maya with an expression she'd never seen before, pure fear. Whitman just issued a federal warrant for your arrest. He's claiming you fabricated evidence and trapped innocent officers and committed perjury. Every federal marshal in the country is now looking for you. He can't do that without cause. He's a federal judge. He just has to say the magic words national security and everyone follows orders. Maya felt the walls closing in. In one move, Whitman had turned her from prosecutor to fugitive. The hunter had become the hunted. We need to go underground completely, Chen said. Off the grid, no phones, no credit cards, nothing they can track. No, Maya said firmly. That's what he wants. He wants me hiding while he destroys the evidence and eliminates more witnesses. We go on offense. How you're now a wanted federal fugitive? By exposing him before he can silence us. We have Richardson's video, we have the account numbers, we have everything we need to bury him. A new voice came from the doorway. Actually, you have more than that. They spun around to find Agent Williams from Philadelphia standing there, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Detective Martinez, Officer Martinez's wife, holding a box of files. Detective Martinez, Maya said carefully, your husband is a racist piece of shit who deserves prison, Martinez said flatly. But he kept records, insurance in case his buddies turned on him, names, dates, payments, everything, including recordings of Judge Whitman giving orders. She set the box on the table. My husband thought he was protected, thought being part of Whitman's network made him untouchable, but when cops started dying, he got scared, told me everything, begged me to help him disappear. Where is he now? Federal protective custody. He flipped completely. He's terrified Whitman will have him killed like the others. Maya opened the box. Inside were USB drives, photographs, and documents that painted a picture of systematic evil. Photos of Whitman meeting with white supremacist groups. Bank records showing payments to hired killers. A list of every false arrest with Whitman's signature authorizing the dismissal of civil rights complaints. This is it, Maya breathed. This is everything we need. Except Whitman is still a federal judge with the power to have you shot on sight, Chen reminded her. Every cop in America is now looking for you. Maya's phone, her last burner, rang. Unknown number. Against Chen's protests, she answered. Ms. Henderson, Whitman's cultured voice purred. By now you know who I am, what I'm capable of. Turn yourself in, and I promise your family won't suffer. You're finished, Whitman. We have everything. He laughed, a sound like ice cracking. I'm a federal judge appointed for life. You're a fugitive prosecutor who assaulted police officers and fabricated evidence, at least that's what the warrant says. Who do you think people will believe? The truth doesn't need belief. It just needs to be heard. The truth is what I say it is. I control the courts. I have judges in 12 states who owe me their careers. Police chiefs who follow my orders. Federal agents who believe in my vision of America. You have nothing but stolen documents and the word of criminals. I have 237 victims in Atlanta alone, thousands nationwide. Their voices will destroy you. Dead voices tell no tales, and trust me, Ms. Henderson, they will be dead, all of them, unless you surrender. You're admitting to conspiracy to commit mass murder. I'm discussing hypothetical scenarios with a delusional fugitive. Now you have 6 hours to turn yourself in. After that, everyone you've ever helped, everyone who's ever trusted you starts having accidents. The line went dead. Maya looked around the room at the terrified faces, Patricia holding Jasmine, Chen gripping his weapon, Martinez clutching her evidence box like a life preserver. We're not surrendering, Maya said. We're going live. What do you mean? Chen asked. He controls the courts and the cops, but he doesn't control the media. We broadcast everything. Richardson's video, Martinez's recordings, all of it. We put it out there before he can stop us. Every major network will verify sources before broadcasting. That takes time we don't have. Then we don't go through major networks. Maya turned to Jasmine. Baby, you know how to live stream, right? Facebook, YouTube, all that. Jasmine nodded, wiping tears. Yeah, but Aunt Maya, they'll track our location. Good. Let them come. By the time they get here, the whole world will know the truth. They set up in the federal building's conference room. Jasmine handled the technical aspects, setting up simultaneous streams on every platform she could think of. Martinez organized the evidence for presentation. Chen coordinated with the few federal agents they could still trust. At 4:00 a.m., they went live. Maya sat in front of the camera, her bruised wrists visible, her exhaustion evident, her determination unwavering. "My name is Maya Henderson. I'm a federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice. 6 hours ago, federal judge Harold Whitman issued a warrant for my arrest on fabricated charges. He did this because I uncovered evidence that he's been orchestrating a nationwide conspiracy to use the justice system as a weapon of ethnic cleansing." The viewer count started climbing. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. She held up Richardson's tablet. This is the former mayor of Atlanta, David Richardson, recorded hours before his murder, staged to look like suicide, confessing to Judge Whitman's crimes. She played the video. Richardson's terrified face filled the screen, his confession echoing across the internet. The viewer count hit 100,000. Martinez stepped forward with her evidence. "My husband, Officer Martinez, was part of this conspiracy. These are recordings of Judge Whitman ordering false arrests, authorizing murders, and planning what he called the purge, the systematic elimination of civil rights lawyers and progressive prosecutors." She played the first recording. Whitman's distinctive voice filled the room. "I don't care how you do it. That neighborhood needs to be white by Christmas. Arrest them all if you have to." The viewer count passed 500,000. Comments flooded in. News outlets started picking up the stream. Chen held up financial documents. "These offshore accounts contain over $300 million stolen through insurance fraud, money taken from companies that thought they were paying legitimate claims used to fund a white supremacist takeover of American cities." Then Maya delivered the killing blow. She held up a list, the purge list. "These are the names of everyone Judge Whitman planned to eliminate. Civil rights lawyers, progressive prosecutors, federal agents who wouldn't play ball, community activists, 537 names. If you're watching and your name is on this list, get to safety now." She read the first 20 names. Each one triggered frantic activity in the comments as people recognized colleagues, friends, family members marked for death. The viewer count hit 2 million. That's when the power went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Through the windows, they could see vehicles surrounding the building. Federal marshals or Whitman's corrupt agents, there was no way to know. "Keep streaming," Maya told Jasmine, who had switched to her phone's data connection. The door burst open. Federal marshals poured in, weapons drawn. "Maya Henderson, you're under arrest." "The whole world is watching," Maya announced. 3 million people are witnessing this." The lead marshal hesitated. His earpiece crackled. Someone was giving him orders. His face changed from determined to confused to horrified. "Stand down," he said suddenly. "All units stand down." "Sir?" another marshal questioned. "New orders from Washington. Director level. Stand down immediately." The marshals lowered their weapons. The lead marshal approached Maya. "Ma'am, Director Patterson sends his regards. Judge Whitman has been detained by federal agents. The Attorney General is asking you to continue your broadcast. The President is watching." Maya felt her knees nearly buckle with relief, but it wasn't over, not yet. She turned back to the camera, now streaming to 5 million viewers. "What you've witnessed tonight is the system trying to protect itself. But we're not done. This corruption extends to 17 cities. Thousands of victims, hundreds of conspirators, and they all need to face justice." Her phone rang. Director Patterson. "Maya put me on speaker." She did. Patterson's voice boomed through the stream. "This is FBI Director Patterson. Everything Prosecutor Henderson has revealed is now under federal investigation. We're executing warrants in 17 cities as we speak. Any law enforcement officer who participated in this conspiracy should turn themselves in immediately. Any victim of these false arrests should contact our hotline. And Judge Whitman is in federal custody charged with conspiracy, murder, and treason." The stream exploded. 10 million viewers. Every news channel in America switching to cover the story. The hashtag thrift store justice trending worldwide. But Maya wasn't celebrating. She knew Whitman had allies, followers who believed in his vision of a white America. This was just the beginning of the fight. As if reading her mind, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered on speaker. "You think you've won?" Whitman's voice was calm despite his arrest. "I'm one man. There are thousands like me. Judges, prosecutors, police chiefs. We're everywhere. You've cut off one head, but the Hydra has many." "Then we'll cut them all off, Swamunya," Maya replied. "You don't understand, do you? This isn't about corruption. It's about the soul of America. Half this country agrees with me, whether they admit it or not. They want their neighborhoods white, their schools segregated, their power maintained. You can arrest me, but you can't arrest an idea. Watch me. You're going to arrest half of America. If that's what it takes to get justice for the other half. Yes, Whitman laughed. You really think you're the hero here? You just started a war. Cities will burn, people will die, blood will run in the streets, all because you couldn't leave well enough alone. Blood was already running. We were just bleeding quietly. Now the whole world sees the wound. The world will tire of watching. They always do. And when the cameras turn away, when the hashtags stop trending, we'll still be here. In every courthouse, every precinct, every position of power. You've won a battle, Ms. Henderson. But the war never ends. The line went dead. Maya looked at the camera at the 15 million people now watching. He's right about one thing. This is a war for the soul of America, and it doesn't end with his arrest. It doesn't end until every person can shop while black drive, while brown exist, while different without fear of persecution. Until justice isn't determined by skin color or bank accounts, but by truth. She stood exhausted, but unbroken. My name is Maya Henderson. 2 days ago, I was arrested for buying a jacket while black. Today, a federal judge sits in jail for orchestrating that arrest. Tomorrow, we continue the fight, because that's what justice requires, not a moment of outrage, but a lifetime of vigilance. Jasmine stepped forward, taking her aunt's hand. I want to help. I want to fight too. Patricia joined them. We all do. Chen Martinez Williams and the federal agents who'd stood with them formed a circle of solidarity. On the stream, comments poured in from around the world, lawyers offering help, activists organizing protests, victims finding their voices. But in the shadows, beyond the cameras in boardrooms and backrooms across America, Whitman's allies were mobilizing. The war he'd predicted was coming. Maya's phone buzzed one last time. This number she recognized Thomasina Williams, the 74-year-old woman arrested for buying a cookbook. Ms. Henderson, I just wanted you to know I'm not afraid anymore. None of us are. You showed us we can fight back. And honey, we're ready for war. As the sun rose over Atlanta, Maya knew the hardest battles lay ahead. Whitman was right, they couldn't arrest an idea. But they could expose it, challenge it, and ultimately defeat it. The thrift store arrest had started something that couldn't be stopped. The question was, how many would bleed before justice finally won? She looked at the evidence boxes, the streaming numbers still climbing the federal agents awaiting orders. Somewhere in those 17 cities, corrupt cops were destroying evidence. Somewhere, victims were finding courage. Somewhere, the next battle was already beginning. Chen, she said quietly, get me everything on Whitman's network. Every judge he appointed, every prosecutor he promoted, every cop he protected. If we're going to war, I want to know my enemies. That could be hundreds of people. Then we'd better get started. As Maya began planning the next phase of her investigation, she didn't notice the black sedan parked across the street or the figure inside taking photographs. She didn't know that Whitman's arrest had triggered contingency plans years in the making, but she would learn soon enough. Because the war for justice had only just begun and the other side was about to strike back with a vengeance that would make her arrest at the thrift store look like a gentle warning. The revolution had started with a receipt for a $65 jacket. Where it would end, nobody yet knew. But Maya Henderson, bruised and bloodied but unbroken, was ready for whatever came next. The black sedan's engine started. The moment Maya stepped back inside the federal building, the driver, a man with forgettable features and deadly skills, spoke into an encrypted phone. Phoenix is moving. Activate Protocol 7. Across Atlanta, 17 sleeper agents received the same message. These weren't street cops or corrupt politicians. These were Whitman's true believers, military-trained operatives who'd waited years for this moment. The war Maya had declared was about to get its first real response. Inside the federal building, Maya studied the network map Chen had created. Red lines connected judges, prosecutors, police chiefs, and politicians across 17 states. At the center sat Whitman, but spreading out like cancer were hundreds of names. My God, Chen whispered. He's infected the entire justice system. Not infected, Maya corrected. Built. He didn't corrupt it. He designed it this way from the beginning. Her phone rang. Director Patterson. Maya, we have a problem. Whitman's lawyer just filed an emergency appeal with the Supreme Court. 2 justices have already signaled support. If he gets 3 more, he walks. He has justices in his pocket. At least 2 confirmed. Maybe more. Maya, you need to understand something. Half of Washington wants you canonized. The other half wants you crucified. You've split this country down the middle. As if to emphasize his point, the building's windows suddenly rattled. Outside, 2 massive crowds had formed. On one side, Black Lives Matter protesters holding signs reading "Justice for the 237." On the other, counter-protesters with "Support our police" and "Whitman was right" banners. "It's starting," Patricia said quietly. "The war he talked about." Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your niece's debate competition. Monroe High School. 3 p.m. tomorrow. Would be a shame if something happened." Maya's blood froze. They were threatening Jasmine directly now. "Chen, I need security at Monroe High." The lights cut out. Not just emergency power this time, everything. In the darkness, Maya heard windows breaking. Smoke grenades rolled across the floor. Someone had breached the federal building itself. "Get down!" Chen shouted, drawing his weapon. Figures in tactical gear poured through the windows. Not federal agents. Their movements were too precise, too military. These were Whitman's Protocol 7 operators. Maya grabbed Jasmine, pulling her behind an overturned desk as bullets shattered the air where they'd been standing. Patricia screamed. Martinez returned fire with Chen, but they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. "Maya Henderson," a voice called through the smoke. "Judge Whitman sends his regards. Surrender now, and your family lives." "Federal agents are already responding," Chen shouted back. The voice laughed. "The federal agents are busy. Every courthouse in Atlanta is under attack. Every safe house has been hit. Whitman's network is fighting back prosecutor. You wanted war, you got it." Maya heard sirens in the distance, but they weren't getting closer. They were moving away, responding to other emergencies. Whitman hadn't just planned an attack, he'd planned a coordinated assault on the entire federal presence in Atlanta. Her phone, somehow still working, rang. She answered. "Maya, it was Agent Williams in Philadelphia. It's happening here too. Chicago, Houston, everywhere, Whitman's people are attacking federal buildings across the country." The line went dead. Maya realized the true scope of what they were facing. This wasn't just corruption, it was an insurrection. "We need to move," Chen shouted, laying down, covering fire. They crawled through the smoke toward a service elevator. Behind them, the tactical team advanced methodically. These weren't thugs or dirty cops. These were soldiers fighting for their vision of America. The elevator doors opened to reveal Detective Martinez, not the wife who'd helped them, but Officer Martinez himself, very much alive despite reports of his protective custody. "Surprise," he said, pointing a gun at Maya's head. "Did you really think we'd let you win?" Before Maya could respond, a bullet took Martinez in the shoulder, spinning him around. Thomasina Williams stood in the stairwell holding a smoking pistol with surprising steadiness for a 74-year-old. "Told you we were ready for war," she said. "Now move." They ran up the stairs, Thomasina leading them with the confidence of someone who'd seen worse battles. Behind them, the building filled with the sounds of combat as federal agents finally arrived, engaging Whitman's operators. On the roof, a helicopter waited, but it wasn't federal. The pilot turned, revealing himself to be Marcus Johnson, the young man whose scholarship had been lost to false arrest. "Ms. Henderson, I got my pilot's license last year. Figured you might need an extraction." They piled in as bullets sparked off the helicopter's armor. As they lifted off, Maya looked down at Atlanta, burning not with literal flames, but with the fire of conflict. Federal buildings under siege, protests turning to riots, the city tearing itself apart. "Where to?" Marcus asked. "The courthouse," Maya said. "Whitman's there. This ends tonight." "Maya, that's suicide," Chen protested. "His people control that building." "No, they think they control it. But I know something they don't." She pulled out her phone, accessing files she'd hidden in a cloud server months ago, insurance of her own. "Whitman has been recording everything, every meeting, every payment, every murder he ordered. He thought he was building blackmail material on his network, but he was really building his own prosecution." "Where are the recordings?" "In his chambers, in a safe behind his portrait of Robert E. Lee. I saw it during a case conference 6 months ago. He didn't know I was investigating him, then got sloppy, left it open while taking a call." The helicopter banked toward the federal courthouse, a massive stone building that looked like a fortress, which tonight it was. Armed men patrolled the roof, snipers in the windows. Whitman had turned the Temple of Justice into his personal bunker. "I can't land there, Marcus said. "They'll shoot us down." "Then we jump," Maya said. Everyone stared at her. "I'm not joking. We fast rope to the roof, fight our way to Whitman's chambers, get those recordings and broadcast them. It's the only way to end this before more people die." "Aunt Maya, that's insane," Jasmine said. "No, baby. Insane is letting them win. Insane is going back to a world where shopping while black is a crime. This ends tonight, one way or another." Chen checked his weapon. "I'm with you." Martinez's wife nodded. "My husband's down there. Time to finish this." Thomasina laughed. I'm 74 years old. What's the worst they can do? Kill me. Let's go. Marcus circled the courthouse, drawing fire. Snipers focused on the helicopter, not seeing the figures sliding down ropes in the darkness behind the building. Maya hit the roof hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Her wrist screamed in pain, but she pushed through it. They moved through the building like ghosts, using Maya's knowledge of the layout to avoid the main forces. Most of Whitman's men were focused on the entrances, expecting a frontal assault. They didn't expect someone to know about the judge's private elevator, installed during renovations in 2015. On the 15th floor, they found Whitman's chambers. 2 guards stood outside. Chen and Martinez's wife took them down with tranquilizer darts, no killing unless necessary. They were seeking justice, not revenge. Inside, Whitman sat behind his massive desk, looking older than his 68 years. The portraits of Confederate generals watched from the walls. The safe stood open behind him, files and hard drives visible. "Ms. Henderson," he said calmly, "I wondered when you'd figure it out." "It's over, Whitman. Surrender." He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Over, look outside. The city's tearing itself apart. The country's choosing sides. I've already won. Even if you arrest me, you can't arrest the movement I've started." "Watch me," Maya said, moving toward the safe. "I wouldn't do that." Whitman held up a device. "Dead man's switch. I release this button, the building explodes. 17 blocks of downtown Atlanta gone, including us." Maya stopped. Behind Whitman, she saw the explosives packed along the walls. He'd turned the courthouse into a massive bomb. "You're bluffing." "Am I? I'm an old man facing life in prison. My network is exposed. My life's work is crumbling." "Why wouldn't I take you all with me?" "Because you're a coward," Thomasina said, stepping forward. "I've known men like you my whole life. You talk big about sacrifice, but you always expect others to do the dying." "Shut up, you old..." Thomasina moved faster than her age suggested, and grabbing Whitman's wrist. They struggled for the device. Maya lunged for the safe, grabbing drives and documents. Chen helped Thomasina restrain Whitman while Martinez's wife began defusing the bombs with surprising expertise. "Military training," she explained, "before I became a cop's wife." Whitman thrashed, screaming about racial purity and the coming war, but his words were those of a defeated man watching his empire crumble. Maya connected the drives to her phone, uploading everything to the cloud and streaming it live. The world watched as Whitman's recordings played him ordering murders, planning false arrests, discussing the cleansing of America. But the most damning recording was from 3 days ago, just before Maya's arrest at the thrift store. "Henderson is getting too close," Whitman's voice said. "Set her up at that thrift store. Make it public, humiliating, destroy her credibility before she destroys us." "So it was all planned," Maya said, looking at Whitman. "My arrest wasn't random." "Nothing was random," Whitman spat. "Every arrest, every life destroyed, all part of the plan. And it would have worked if you'd just taken the bait without that damn badge." The building shook. Outside, federal forces were retaking the courthouse floor by floor. Whitman's revolution was failing his soldiers surrendering or fleeing. "It's finished," Maya said, but Whitman smiled, a terrible expression on his aged face. "No, it's just beginning. You've exposed us, yes, but you've also activated us. Every white supremacist in America now knows there's a network. They know we exist, they know we're organized, and they'll join us. Then we'll stop them too. All of them forever. You can't kill an idea, Henderson. You can't arrest hate. You can't prosecute fear. We'll go underground, regroup, come back stronger." "Maybe," Maya admitted, "but not on my watch, not in my country, not while people like me stand guard." Federal agents burst in, weapons drawn. Director Patterson himself led them, having flown in from Washington. "Judge Whitman, you're under arrest for treason, mass murder, and crimes against humanity." As they cuffed him, Whitman looked at Maya one last time. "You think you're a hero, but you're just another chapter in a very long book. We were here before you. We'll be here after you." "No," Maya said firmly. "You're the past. We're the future." They led Whitman away, an old man in handcuffs, his empire in ruins. But Maya knew he was partly right. The network was exposed, but not eliminated. The ideology was wounded, but not dead. Over the next 6 hours, federal agents arrested 317 conspirators across 17 states. Judges, prosecutors, police chiefs, politicians, all part of Whitman's network. The Supreme Court justices who'd supported him resigned in disgrace. The insurance companies involved faced federal prosecution. But most importantly, the victims found their voices. All 237 from Atlanta, thousands more nationwide. They testified, they protested, they demanded change. At dawn, Maya stood outside the courthouse where she'd been meant to testify just days ago. Patricia and Jasmine stood beside her, exhausted but unbroken. Chen and his team surrounded them, protecting them from the few remaining threats. The crowd had grown to thousands: victims, families, activists, and supporters. They held candles and photos of loved ones who'd been falsely arrested, whose lives had been destroyed by Whitman's network. Maya spoke without a microphone, but her voice carried. 3 days ago, I was arrested for shopping while black. Today, a federal judge and hundreds of conspirators are behind bars for orchestrating that arrest, and thousands like it. But this isn't the end. It's the beginning. She held up the jacket she'd bought at the thrift store, somehow recovered from evidence bloodstained and torn, but intact. This jacket cost $65, but the fight for justice, that's priceless, and it never ends. We don't get to stop being vigilant. We don't get to assume the system will protect us. We have to protect each other. Jasmine stepped forward. I was supposed to wear this jacket to my debate competition. The topic was justice in modern America. I thought I knew what I was going to say, but now I know better. Justice isn't something you debate. It's something you fight for, every day, forever. The crowd erupted in applause. Somewhere in federal custody, Whitman heard it and knew he'd lost more than his freedom. He'd lost the narrative. The story of America wasn't his to write anymore. As the sun rose over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of hope, Maya thought about all the battles ahead. Other networks to expose, other victims to defend, other arrests to prevent. But for now, in this moment, she'd won. A black woman arrested for shopping had brought down a federal judge and exposed a nationwide conspiracy. What now? Patricia asked. Now we rebuild, Maya said. We create a justice system that actually serves justice. We make sure no one else gets arrested for existing while black. We finish what we started. And the jacket? Jasmine asked. Do I still wear it to the debate? Maya handed it to her niece. You wear it as armor. Let them see the blood, the tears, the fight. Let them know what justice really costs. As they walked away from the courthouse, Maya's phone rang one last time. Director Patterson. Maya, the president wants to meet you. There's talk of a new position, Federal Director of Civil Rights Enforcement. Full authority to investigate and prosecute cases like this nationwide. Maya looked at her family, at the crowd still holding vigil at the city slowly healing from its night of violence. Tell the president I'll take the job, but I'm keeping the receipt from that thrift store, framing it on my office wall, so I never forget what $65 can buy. What's that? A revolution. She hung up and walked into her new life, her new mission, her new war against injustice. The thrift store arrest had ended. The real work had just begun. And somewhere in America, another black person was walking into another store, receipt in hand, unaware that their right to shop in peace had been paid for in blood bought with courage and protected by a prosecutor who'd refused to let injustice win. The revolution hadn't been televised. It had been live-streamed, and it had started with the receipt timestamp 3:15 p.m. October 14th, 2023. The day America changed. The day justice won. The day Maya Henderson proved that sometimes the wrong black woman is exactly the right one to arrest.